Epic Megagames, or as they're known now it's not the 1990s, Epic Games, are one of the biggies. A few years back they unleashed the phenomenon that is Fortnite, a game which, if you check the magazines kids are actually reading these days, you would think is one of only 4 that actually exist anymore, along with Minecraft, Pokemon and Roblox. That's not come out of nowhere either. Before that, you might recognise the Gears of War series. Before that, you may well know of Unreal and Unreal Tournament, one of the early breakout first-person shooter series. And if you don't know Unreal the game, you might have spotted the logo for the Unreal Engine at the start of basically everything. The Unreal Engine tech is behind games from Mass Effect to Borderlands to Tetris Effect to what remains of Edith Finch. And to their credit, the licensing for Unreal Engine is attractive and very simple. You pay 5% of your revenue to Epic for using it. If you've made less than $1 million, that is reduced to 0%. If you're selling on the Epic Games Store, you pay nothing to Epic for those sales either. If you're a relatively small developer, that tech can be transformative. I think that fair treatment of the smaller developers is an indication that Epic, still headed and majority owned by CEO Tim Sweeney, knows where they came from. They were true indies. The name Megagames wasn't chosen to make them seem rad fresh, but was simply an attempt to give the impression of a big established company, when in fact they employed exactly one person. They were a contemporary of Apogee and id Software as producers of shareware for the PC. Where those two produced Commander Keen and Wolfenstein, Epic released Jill of the Jungle and Ken's Labyrinth, Jazz Jackrabbit, channel favourite One Must Fall 2097 and Tyrion. Several of these were the growing company using its strength to do some distribution, and one of those games is a forgotten narrative shooter that you should damn well play. Traffic Department 2192. See, it's already 95 better than One Must Fall. It's the year 2192, and the Traffic Department are the only police left in the face of a major city takeover by a gang known as the Vultures. You play Marta Louise Velasquez, a second-generation pilot, but the intro begins 14 years earlier with her father returning from a tour of duty.
This is Rick Velasquez, running 14B, over.
We're at 14B. I'm picking you up on long-range scanners. Welcome home, sir.
Enjoy that, it's the only speech you're getting in a game that has a 50,000 word script but still fits into 2.5 megabytes. So after that trauma, Marta grows up with a perfectly healthy and sensible outlook on life and isn't in any way a hilarious total dickhead, and totally has no emotional issues, problems with close relationships or issues working with others. Yes. To be fair, that dispatcher is a dick and Marta is ace. So one argument later we can go for the tutorial mission that teaches the basics. Traffic Department is a top-down, mostly city-based shooter with simple controls. The crow fly's location of your objective is marked clearly. You've got a radar, a regenerating shield, and a non-regenerating hull integrity to use after that's exploded. The tutorial mission is simple. We're going after some Vulture supply trucks, protected by some basic wingmen. It's quite tricky to actually manage to die here, so you can learn the surprisingly easy basics. Your ship fires forward, but there's nothing to stop you reversing to dodge yourself out of the way. It actually becomes second nature really quite quickly, and the mostly static nature of the map during the story means you end up with a pretty good idea of how to get places. The game has 60 missions total, spread over 3 episodes, the first of which was effectively released as a demo. This video is entirely showing you and talking about the first 1/3 or so of that first episode. Because Traffic Department is very much a story-based game, I need to show you just enough to convince you to play this thing. Because, review spoiler alert, play this thing. The story is not tacked on here, it's absolutely the core of the game. It's a classic sci-fi tale. If you can think of a good sci-fi trope, it's probably going to make an appearance at some point. It's written by Christopher Perkins, and that will have made a few of you nerds pick up your ears. For the rest of you, Christopher Perkins is currently the senior story designer for the official Dungeons & Dragons people. I'm not going to lie though, it is absolutely as hokey as hell. Let's take on the next 5 missions to show the way this is going to work. So, having been yanked from duty due to be fair, being an irredeemable git, you take on the entirely proportionate response of hacking into the commander's personal laptop to get yourself on a fun new gig. Inasmuch as escort missions are ever fun new gigs. It's worth pointing out here that the music is near perfect. There's actually not a hell of a lot of it, but it's a lovely little soundtrack that entirely suits the game. This mission is also the first appearance of mid-mission communications. The game uses this sparingly, perhaps realising how much it breaks up the action, but the ability to mix up a mission with plot in mid-flow is sometimes very helpful. Our first look at the enemy. Vulture HQ now know about us, which bodes poorly as we enter Mission 3. Weirdly, for a game that I promise you doesn't do a lot of this, it's an escort mission again, as you can see from the green indicator on the ship. The game does allow you to be proactive though, and escort by simply distracting everyone who comes close, rather than being forced to hang 2 inches from your escortee's rear bumper the entire time, improving how these things normally go in games. And then you get to blow up a bunch more crap, including a blink and you'll miss it appearance of a new ship. Vel spotted this one though, and we flip to Vulture Command, where we discover this is the doing of a double agent, including leaking the details of said ship. Note by the way that it's 2192, and apparently the Vulture Command is still doing all of their meetings on Zoom. That's a chilling thought. Mission 4. We're going to have to find some of them, and we're going to do it at night. Which, to be fair, does very little for the gameplay, except turn it into what appears to be some kind of Virtual Boy emulator. And it's literally only now as I watch this footage back, after 27 years of knowing this game, that I suddenly wonder why the infrared camera also apparently affects your dashboard and scanner. It's about now you start to get a sense of the enemy AI and the kind of attack patterns they fly, which are predictable in the most part, and the game rewards investigation into how this kind of thing works. Unsurprisingly, the defector has seen the way this is going and has done a runner. It turns out to be a bloke called Demeter, but before we demeet him, it's time to introduce what will surely be the game's major nemesis, Harkon Malok, the guy who did a shooting on your dad all those years back, but has apparently only pulled off 65 more kills since. I've already done that many in the last 15 minutes. Aaron Demeter, meanwhile, is not a charmer. He's also not one for checking rank. Vel was promoted from sugar tits to lieutenant years ago. Unsurprisingly, she takes poorly to this and lays him out for 3 hours, which at least gives her time for a pre-mission coffee and fuming session. It's a poor choice for him too, since for the 3rd time in this episode we've got some escorting to do. The same applies though, Aaron will largely take care of himself if you blow up the crap around him, which is good because his sense of direction is bloody appalling. With him out of the city, we blow up a few more vultures and head home for tea and plot. Moloch's coming for you himself, using a Mark II that's already been upgraded with fancy new shields, 4 cup holders and a bitchin' sound system. Mission 6 claims to be a standard patrol at the start, but does introduce the first new ship, the 4-cannon Stiletto, fitted with an afterburner and possibly underfloor neon lighting. What it's largely not fitted with is shielding. The Stiletto is softer than a week-old biscuit, and that's a problem, because Captain Dad Murder's turned up and he wants you to take over the family being a burning corpse business. Still, this will be an excellent first encounter of many, with the guy you've wanted dead all your... Oh, he's exploded. Ah. And that's the thing about Traffic Department, it moves apace. The story uses every cliché in the book, but it makes sure it uses every cliché in the book. Missions are a short, sharp burst of action with a surprising amount of variety, and the story is delivered in quick, minute-long bursts that always have something interesting to them. Something else that occurs too. Velasquez is a well-rounded female lead character in a game from the early 90s. She's defined, her motivations are clear, it's obvious why she does what she does, and at no point does it relate to her trying to settle down and have babies. We're still 2 years from even Lara Croft here, but this is one of the great characters of gaming, regardless of gender, and it's really cheery that woman is not a complete description of her personality, as it is in too many other games. Refreshing too is that our ill-tempered hero is allowed to be so, without being blindly shielded by the other characters. Other than the commander, who appears to be protecting her for reasons we don't yet know, everyone else responds to her open hatred with equal open hatred. Or a serious crush in the case of the dispatcher, but he clearly has other personal issues. There's no she's actually nice here. She's renegade playthrough femshep and she's angry. We're 10% through the story, and it's already done a full arc that most games would have taken as the whole plot. I'd love to show you more. I played the next 14 missions before I even started writing this, because the next 2 missions immediately turn the whole thing straight upside down again, with new mechanics, characters, and ships. But you'll just have to play it yourself. And you can do that, because Traffic Department 2192 has been free to download since 2007. I'll jam a link in the description. It'll work fine and is easy to get running on any system that can run DOSBox. You can even play it online at classicdosgames.com, which is where I re-downloaded it for this video. And you should do that. Traffic Department is not especially difficult. I can finish it, and I am not a big shooter player. It's also not especially long. But both those are good things. You'll probably finish the whole game in about 5 hours, but in doing so you'll be playing one of the most forgotten games from one of the world's biggest publishers. You'll play one of the more imaginative games on anything ever. And you'll experience the most gloriously silly sci-fi epic that somehow manages to be utterly engrossing from start to finish, and starring one of gaming's original female protagonist greats. A hearty recommendation for a lazy gaming Sunday from us to you. We'll see you in 2 weeks for another Yesterzine, and if you watch this when it goes up, may we also say, word to your mother. Happy Your Mum Day everyone. Goodbye.